I gave people all the stuff they really needed. Social Security checks, utility bills, TV guide.
I want a TV guidance counselor. TV guidance counselor. Staying up to watch all night, and everything's gonna be alright with my TV guidance counselor.
Hey everybody, Ken Reed here, your TV Guidance Counselor on the show. TV Guidance Counselor, this is the show where each and every week, oh, excuse me, allergies. Each and every week, I've talked about classic television using back issues of TV Guide magazine from my personal collection as the inspiration for a conversation. And this week we have a returning guest, and a great returning guest. It's been a couple years since he's been on the show. I think like 5 years, because time is insane now. It's Chip Chantry, who is a very funny Philadelphia-based comic. He has a new comedy special out, came out a couple weeks ago, called Move Closer. It is on his YouTube. I put links in the show description, and I'll put it on the social media and on our Patreon. If you go to patreon.com/TV Guidance Counselor, I'll put it up there, as well as putting up a PDF version of this TV Guide from 1984 if you are a $5 and up TV Guide archive member of the TV Guidance Counselor Patreon. I don't know why that was so difficult for me to pull the words for that out of my brain, but, you know, I'm old now. But yeah, you'd get that PDF. Perfectly fine if you're not a $5 and up member. If you have $1 a month, that's cool too. And if you don't, that's also cool. I just appreciate you listening. If you want to email me any questions about this episode or anything else that I can try to answer, you can do so at tvguidancecounselor@gmail.com or ken@icanread.com. Again, on all the social media at Kenneth W. Reed and at TV Guidance. Let me know if there are guests you'd like to see on the show, anything like that. What you think of this episode with Chip, which I think you'll like, but you know, let me know. But yes, watch his special Move Closer. I also put up links to all the other stuff he does. He pumps out a lot of stuff, and it's all good, and I enjoy everything he does, and I enjoy catching up with him because he's a good dude. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy this week's episode of TV Guidance Counselor with returning guest Chip Chantry.
TV is my friend, and it has been always there for me in time of need.
Returning guest this week, live via satellite from the Philadelphia area, Chip Chantry. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Ken. How are you doing?
I'm doing, you know, as good as one can do. It's nice to have you back. The last time you were here, you were sitting right behind me here.
I'm going to be honest. I'm a little disappointed that I'm sitting in my bedroom and not your amazing office like I was in, I think it was 5 years ago.
Was it 5 years ago? Jesus Christ.
It was right before the It was about a year before the pandemic.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You know, if I'm still doing this in like 5 years, which God knows what will be the case, I'll try to, I feel like there's like the next step in virtual podcasting would be like some kind of VR thing. Like like you'd be like virtually here.
I'll send my hologram.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I also love how, total side note, all those hologram shows where they're like, it's Tupac, it's whatever. People are like, this is crazy technology. And it's literally 18th century technology.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's a thing called Pepper's Ghost. It's a magic trick. So basically what they used to do in like 1800s magic shows is it's just two mirrors, right? You have a mirror angled, and obviously the listener can't see this, two mirrors angled in a way that you basically have a person underneath the stage.
Okay.
And it projects them onto the stage like a ghost. So it looks like there's a person there and there isn't. So it's that exact same thing, except instead of a person being reflected in mirrors, it's a CG model.
Incredible. And a Philly note right there. There was a big Philly band back in about 20 years ago called Pepper's Ghost, and I thought it was a funny name. No idea. Now I know what it means. That's amazing. Yeah,
it's an old magician trick. And it's so funny when people are like, it's crazy. It's like they were there. Wow, we live in the future. I'm like, dude, this is like it's 1850. Which you can imagine like what those people thought.
Yeah. Exactly. Oh, they must have been blown away. But I mean, people aren't smart enough. Like, they're going to love that. Like, the next step, we should just do all those other parlor tricks. Like, did you see the Fleetwood Mac hologram show? They cut Stevie Nicks in half. And it's like, no, they didn't cut her in half. Yeah.
Oh my God. I went to see The Dead Without Jerry and they picked my card. It totally was my card. Yeah, we just made $1 million with this idea.
I talked to my grandmother past the grave, but it was the girls from Heart.
And they're not even dead. People still go to those like John Edwards type things, by the way.
Yeah.
I cannot believe that.
Oh, okay. So I write for a local radio station. I do like the sweepers, all that stuff. And they are in the same studio in Philly as the sports station. And it was when the Eagles were going to the Super Bowl a year or two ago, and they had me come in. The producer got a hold of me, and these guys the sports radio guys don't know me. And he wanted to pull a prank on the hosts, and they said that I was a sports psychic and that I was going to come in and make predictions for the Super Bowl. So I came in, and again, they don't know. It's during commercial, and the one guy is he's like this older guy. He's like our dad's age, and great guy, really nice guy. And he's like, "Oh, so you're a psychic?" And I was like, "Yeah," because I have to play along at this point.
Sure.
And then I'm doing just ridiculous. It's basically roast jokes, but as a sports psychic. And he doesn't know this, and he gets very heartfelt. He's like, I never believed in this before, but my wife took me to one recently. And I spoke to my dead sister or whoever, and he starts welling up during the commercial break and was like, "So I kind of believe it now." And it's like, I think what you do is just very interesting. I was like, yeah. And then he cuts to the show, and then I just start rolling out jokes. And I was in his part. Lovely man. He rolled with it. The other host was not having me on because boomer sports guys don't like being tricked.
Oh, they're very serious because they're the smartest guy in the room, and they're like, "Oh, look, I know everything. Okay, listen, I'm in charge here." Blah, 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 blah. Yeah.
And he just hated me, and I knew it was going to go bad, and of course it did. But with that added extra layer of, I almost made this man cry, and then I'm just gonna shit all over it.
Yeah, because it's people are always like, well, if it makes people feel better, and I'm like, yeah, but the guy, someone's making, not in your instance, but I'm like, someone's making money on them and they're playing on that stuff. So I don't think that's fine. And my dad was actually talking about it the other day. Somebody knew was going, and I'm like, yeah, it's called hot reading. Again, it's an 18th century thing. And he's like, well, how do they know? I'm like, they bought tickets, right? They have all their names. The internet, now it's easier than ever to do that.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, anyway. But speaking of when it wasn't easy to be a fake psychic, when actually it was, you picked an issue here from 1984, March 24th to the 30th. It has Hill Street Blues' Veronica Hamill and Daniel J. Travianti on. And I never, Hill Street Blues was a little too old for us, so I never really watched it. But to this day, even though I'm looking at the issue here and I know that Daniel J. Travianti is from Hill Street Blues, I think it's because of his name. I always just think he was like the mayor of New York or a politician.
Oh, he 100% looks like that, kind of like an Ed Koch. Yes, he doesn't look like a TV star either. He just looks like a rich man who's connected, and that's it.
And for some reason, it's like, I'm Daniel J. Travianti. It just doesn't sound like...
He was a lawyer that got in some trouble with some casinos back in the 70s, but somehow pulled through it, and now he's running for comptroller.
And he's wearing a wedding ring, but managing to make it look like a pinky ring. Speaking of illusions, I don't know how he's pulling that off. Yeah,
it's like if he won the Super Bowl of cops, that's what this is.
So why did you pick this one?
Well, first of all, so I will say, and I had to look, I didn't know that these people were from Hill Street Blues, but I will say I never watched a minute of it, but I'm very aware of it. It was my dad's favorite show. I don't think my dad's ever seen a TV show that doesn't involve police officers. And was your dad a cop? My grandfather was.
Okay.
And so, he was just always focused on that. But I know the theme song like the back of my hand, because I think it was Thursday night, so it always just felt good, and it just felt warm, and it's like, okay, the week's almost over, and my dad's watching Hill Street Blues, so everything's good. But the reason I picked this was for something that we're going to bring up on the last night of the week.
Okay.
But I have a very specific memory, but I do have to apologize. So since I did pick this because of that specific reason, but man, I know you've talked about this before, but what a wasteland TV was in 1984.
It kind of was, yeah.
My God, what that hangover from the 70s, and just there wasn't much. I thought I was gonna have so much trouble picking stuff, and I was like, I got nothing to pick here. So
well, because we're in March, with people, just to reframe their brain, because the TV season isn't a thing anymore. TV season went from September to May, so it spanned over like 2 different years. So March 84 is, for all intents and purposes, 1983 TV.
Yes.
So it was 84, fall 84, when we got all the kind of 80s shows we think of. Like this, although technically 84, this kind of is still the 70s.
It really is. I mean, there's just between Alice and Three's Company and the Jeffersons still gasping for like MASH. And so I get, because in the next 2 years, it's like we got our sweet spot. Like, I think it's like The Growing Pains, Who's the Boss, Head of the Class, Mr. Belvedere, like those shows, but we haven't gotten them yet.
Yeah, because all these 70s shows were ending, and they needed to replace them. And NBC, Brendan Tartikoff had done Hill Street Blues, which was a huge bomb the first year, but was a critical hit, so they kept it on because NBC was at the bottom of the 3 networks. This is like, he got some traction with that, so then he's like, all right, I'm going to greenlight Cheers and Punky Brewster and the A-Team and Miami Vice and like all those shows that we think of. So we're not quite there yet. So it is always kind of deceptive when you're like, it's 84, of course, but it's really 83.
Yeah.
And they're on the cover here because there was a wedding on Hill Street Blues. So there's a whole article in here about TV weddings. But I love there's a little pull-out box in that section next to the ad for the Oldsmobile Forenza GT, which is one of the lamest looking cars I've ever seen.
It looks, honestly, it's such a throwback early 80s crappy car that I had a Chevy Citation, which was similar to this. But as old and goofy as it looks, it definitely looks like one of those Elon Musk trucks.
But better. This looks like it could turn into a Transformer robot. That just looks like it could transform into a dumpster just by lifting the trunk.
Exactly.
I read an article the other day, and I don't know how true this was. Like, I couldn't tell if it was a parody article or not, because that's the world we live in now.
Of course.
But apparently they were having an issue with raccoons have been crawling all over and breaking into those Cybertrucks. And they really think it's because they think they're dumpsters.
That's incredible. That's so funny.
Scratching them up. So the five of TV's most popular weddings, from 5 to 1, we have Vicky Gillibrati and Nick Hogan on Falcon Crest. Nope. The Nielsen rating was a 23.5 with a 39 audience share. So for people who don't know what those mean, that means that 39% of everyone in America was watching that. 39%. That's so many people. And it's tied with Christy Grant and Blake Carrington on Dynasty. That was 83. The Falcon Crest was 83. JR and Sue Ellen remarriage on Dallas, which was December 82. That had 45 share.
Almost half the people watching TV.
Almost half the people.
We're watching their second marriage.
Yes. And then Lucy Ewing and Mitch Cooper on Dallas. So the number 2 is Rhoda and what's his name? Joe. That had 52%. So that's literally more than half of America was watching that, and that was in 74. But the first one is also Dallas, and that's Lucy Ewing and Mitch Cooper from 1981, and that had a 58 share. So 58% of the people in America were watching that live.
That's incredible. And then there's that story about a real wedding on TV. I think it was when Tiny Tim, the singer, married...
On Carson, right?
On Carson, and married the woman that he married, and they got married on Carson. And apparently it was so many people that watched it that there were electrical power issues because they had to send out all that electricity because everyone in America is watching it. And as soon as it was over, everybody in America turned it off, and just like all these, transformers or whatever blowing, because I don't know how electricity works, Ken. It's like a Pepper's Ghost to me.
Like 2 or 3 of the hamsters died. They couldn't keep up with the wheels.
Just got stuck.
There you go. There's also a Winston ad here, which I think these are pilots. I can't quite tell. They're wearing flight jackets.
Right. Yeah.
And it says, Winston, America's best. Join the first team. Reach for Winston.
I feel like they're going for maybe like an Airwolf situation.
Okay, yeah, there's two guys in flight jackets. One of them looks like he has a gun holster, but a gun holster that fits a hairdryer is what it looks like. The other guy's got leather gloves in his back pocket. There's sort of a windshield, but I don't know what it's of.
No, it's like maybe a helicopter, maybe a submarine that came out of the water. I have no clue what is happening.
This is like a Rorschach test for like vaguely homoerotic action in the 80s.
It really is. It's
because it also looks like they're standing up in a convertible. Like if you look down by their legs by the warning, those look like car seats.
Yes, they do. Like they just got done a parade.
Yeah, and they have, I'm going to have to post this because they have the weirdest looks on their faces. Like the one guy...
they just got caught doing something.
Yeah, but they're kind of mad. Like the one guy without the mustache has like a little bit more whimsical about it. He's got a cigarette in his mouth. He's about to light it. And he's got kind of like are you kidding me? And then the mustache guy's got a real like, what the fuck did you just fucking say to me look?
Yeah. I mean, he's got a mustache. He's obviously has to have that look.
He's literally gripping his pants leg in a fist, though. Like he's like in a rage. Like not his hand, not in his pocket. His thumb is maybe in the pocket, and he's like just like tight fisting that part of his pants, like he's just gonna kill somebody.
Yeah, and then he's got OJ's gloves hanging out his back pocket.
Yeah. It's maybe they're two Mark Furmans. They got caught trying to frame OJ.
I could see that happening. And like the other one's sort of like a Kato. Yeah, I can feel that. By the way, and that's not even I don't even think that's the most confusing cigarette ad of the issue.
No, not even close.
The one on page 2 of at the very beginning. Well, actually the first one on page 1, the back cover, I guess.
Oh yeah. Players go places.
Players go places. And those are like fancy. Yeah. They're sort of like the Ferrero Rocher of cigarettes. They're just so fancy.
They look like your grandmother would give them to you when you came to visit.
Yeah, and like those never just sat out. Those were always in one of those leather pouches with a brass snap on it.
May I offer you a cigarette? And this is very progressive because it's a party with some people all wearing Cosby sweaters. But it's a mixed race. Like there's white people, black people, there's a Hispanic looking guy. They're all smoking and having champagne. So I don't know what this event is, but you know,
it's not Reagan's America, I'll tell you that much.
Everything's solved there. And then the second one is for Newport.
Okay, this one confused me so much.
Yeah.
I can't even I feel dirty even talking about it.
It's a guy. So we're in March, so it's kind of winter. Sure. So there's a shirtless guy in the water, and around his neck he's like fireman carrying a woman who is in full winter gear, like boots, duck boots, mittens that oddly look like oven gloves. And she's kind of like, oh my God, don't throw me in the water. And he's like, yeah, this is great. So I assume he's doing some kind of like polar plunge. And then it says Newport, alive with pleasure, because there's an exclamation point.
It really is. Yeah. And they're really throwing that alive in there just because we don't want anybody to think about the huge Surgeon General's warning at the bottom. But like, how did this even happen? He's in like what looks like an Olympic-sized swimming pool.
Well, there's snow in the background too.
There's snow in the background. He's up to his waist, and he's just holding a gal who just went sledding.
Yeah, I would call this sexual assault adjacent hijinks.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's where I would put this event. Also, the phrase "alive with pleasure" sounds like someone whose first language isn't English trying to compliment something and it making everyone uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
Like, oh, your food is so good; it's alive with pleasure.
Alive with pleasure.
There's no way to use the word pleasure in a sentence without it sounding somewhat sexual.
Not at all. Not at all.
Yeah, even like my pleasure. Like, I don't want to hear about your pleasure.
That sounds filthy.
And then as soon as I said that, I saw this thing about Lana Wood, and it says, her time has come for some happy endings. So,
yes.
There's two double entendres there.
Yes. And by the way, Lana Wood's making a big comeback. She's an old lady now. She's 38 years old.
Oh, hideous.
So she is just on death's door, apparently, according to TV Guide. But she wrote a poem that they posted.
Yes.
It's like a highlights magazine.
Would you like to read the poem?
I'll give it a shot. Ken.
Okay, it's entitled Sleep, everybody. This
Sleep,
is
yes.
Sleep by Lana Wood, 38 years old, as read by Chip Chantry.
Let the darkness close around me, fold down and press me into nothing, till the flooding of fear and loneliness leaves.
Alive with
Wood,
pleasure.
Alive with pleasure.
That's not part of it, but the rest of it is. Yeah. This lady sounds depressed. And I was looking at this and it says, there were 5 marriages. The first at age 16.
16.
16. And then she was on Peyton Place and then was in Playboy. Like, I don't know if I've ever heard of this woman.
No.
It's Natalie Wood's sister, I believe.
And we obviously know Natalie didn't have the best luck with guys.
No. And she just passed away at this contemporaneously. She was, died 2 years before this.
Right.
She says, I was always the bad girl, never the romantic lead. Oh, the poor woman.
That's how I describe myself, Ken. So
Yeah. Never the romantic lead.
Yeah,
and the
always bad
funniest thing is there's an ad for Clorox bleach on the end of this article, but when you're just scrolling, it kind of looks like it's part of the article. So you're reading about her and then you scroll and then there's just this half-page ad of a pink toilet with someone just dumping bleach in it.
Yes. It's just, it really, if you can look at that Clorox bleach, Clorox liquid bleach, unbeatable disinfecting for less. Yeah. Like that also sounds like I feel like that poem Sleep goes very hand in hand.
That could be the last 2 lines of that poem.
Yeah.
Clorox liquid bleach. Honestly, I feel like you could add at the end of that poem, just put any advertising slogan and it would work. Like there's another ad in here right after that for low menthol, low tar Bel Air cigarettes.
Yeah.
And it says lighten up with Bel Air. Like that would work as what totally changes the poem, but it's like a twist ending.
Could I try it real quick?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Let the darkness close around me, fold down and press me into nothing, till the flooding of fear and loneliness leaves. Skittles!
Yeah. Taste the rainbow.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think it works.
We just made so much money as ad men.
We just became copywriters.
Yeah, I don't think she has that copy written, so
nope.
We can make a ton of money here. And then before we get to the listings, there's a thing I wanted to mention just because I love the show so much. On the primetime section, there's a big picture of Andrea Martin, main zone Andrea Martin, as Edith Prickley from SCTV, because this season they moved from SCTV Network 90, which had been a rival to SNL, to the final iteration of SCTV, which was the Cinemax SCTV channel. And there's a little article in here about that. And then a little article in here about the Mr. T action figure.
Yes, which is it looks like a gigantic, because I had a Mr. T A-Team action figure, and this one seems like it's larger than life. Like
this
it
was
looks
12
like
inches. This was Barbie
so
size.
That is that's a big guy right there.
Yeah, he came with accessories. It was the coolest toy this size from that era. And to your point of, not being in my office, I've sort of managed to rebuy everything I ever wanted as a kid, except for love. But the one toy that's always been out of reach financially and I could never justify is this very year they came out with a 12-inch Inspector Gadget toy, Galoob, in 84. Wow. And it had all the accessories and the helicopter came out of it. And one kid had it in school and it was the greatest toy ever, and I didn't have it.
That's great. My little brother for his, I'm going to say 8th birthday, got Voltron.
This is the kid that won the Nick contest?
It's the Nick contest. Yes.
How spoiled your brother?
Exactly. He was the charmed little life, but he got Voltron. So I'm going to say it was 18 inches. And
easily.
Had all the cats that fit together.
Yeah.
And it's but I don't know how expensive it was. It wasn't like we had a lot of money by any stretch. And actually, I think this plays into it because it was then recalled because there was lead paint. Mm-hmm. But my dad was like, well, we're not sending it back. We're not getting rid of it. It's going to be worth something someday.
From my cold, dead hands.
Exactly. So instead of just putting it away in a box and being like, well, we're going to save it because it'll be a collector's item, he's like, yeah, you can just keep playing with it. Hey, maybe if you get lead poisoning, we'll get some money from that too.
Give it a lick. Lick it. You'll like it.
Put your mouth on the cat, son.
And then also in the sports view, which again, I'm not a sports guy, but there is one of the most disturbing illustrations I've ever seen.
it's not helping the cause at all. Like, I feel like it goes with that Lana Wood poem.
It's supposed to be it's a cartoon of a TV mixed with a referee, because I think it's about timeouts, like TV timeouts, but it is horrible. And it seems like he's wearing fur pants for some reason. His face is on the TV and his arms are coming out of the side of the TV, but his arms are way too long. And yeah,
and he's got that
horrific,
disappointing look on his face, that giant nose, and just it's great. It looks like it would be an illustration, an animation for a different version of TV bloopers and practical jokes, where the practical jokes don't end well. Like somebody physically got hurt.
like Scare Tactics, but in the 80s.
Right.
Like, he's got a look on his face that says to me, I never asked to be born.
No, I want to get that tattoo of that man, I think, on my forearm. And then on the other arm, it's just going to be that poem.
I never asked. Oh, her poem? Yeah.
Yeah.
Get it in Latin as a tramp stamp.
Yes. By the way, just to bring the mood up a little bit after that horrific illustration, down below, we got to check in with Jay North, Dennis the Menace.
Yeah, Dennis the Menace, who had a pretty terrible life.
Awful, awful life, but made us smile. Still one of my go-to shows. It's on Peacock, and I will fall asleep watching Dennis the Menace. It's silly, but it's that nostalgia that I love.
There's a reunion quiz here. It says, on Dennis the Menace, what was the name of Mr. Wilson's dog?
And I knew it was Fremont without having to turn it upside down to look at the answer.
Yeah. There was a resurgence of Dennis the Menace in the early 80s because of reruns. Nickelodeon started airing it.
Yeah, Nick at
the
Night.
Cartoon started again. Deke had a cartoon of the comic series. Got huge.
Yeah.
Which led to the movie.
And the woman who played his mom, Gloria Henry, I think it was,
Yes.
she literally just passed away like a year or two ago at like age... She was like 99 or 101 or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, those she did not do the hard living. Jay did all the hard living on behalf of the rest of the cast.
For all the rest.
Although the first Mr. Wilson did die and was replaced for the final season.
Yes. You can see, by the way, there is an episode like two before he dies where he has to do a lot of physical labor. And I'm like, that might be where the stroke came from there.
Yeah, he does not look well in a lot of that show, which is that kind of fits with his character because he's supposed to be like exasperated and kind of sweaty, like because he's so mad. But you're like, no, this in hindsight, somebody help that man.
Right.
Before we get to the primetime listing on Saturday, there's an ad on page 30 of the PDF for an ABC weekend special at noon. I've never heard of this. This is ridiculous looking. It's called The Amazing Bungie Venture. Not an adventure. Venture. With another exclamation point. And it says, what's a bungee? Hop in a time machine with Karen and Andy and meet the strange and wonderful Bungie. And it's a thing that has like plunger feet. It's sort of like a popple, but has a big elephant nose, and the kids are riding it. This had to be such a massive flop.
And it feels like it's almost they're trying to rip off Dr. Seuss, like sort of like Horton Hears a Who, maybe, kind of.
So this is the explanation. It says, this takes two youngsters in a time machine back to a prehistoric jungle where they meet Bungie, a talking creature with orange hair, suction feet, and an inflatable trunk that allows him to fly. Part 1 of a 2-part cartoon. I need to look up this if someone's posted this on YouTube, because I feel like this. I need to see this.
It's also playing at noon, which is weird. Like they're not putting it in primetime Saturday morning cartoon time. You know, it's like it's a little bit after. It's like right before college basketball happens, which is like the most depressing time for television, I feel like.
And this is March, so this is prime midseason replacement time, which didn't really usually affect cartoons.
Right.
But I'm wondering if this was like, well, we didn't cancel anything. We greenlit this weird cartoon. Just air it now and we'll get it out of here.
Yes.
Oh, and then at the movies that day, they do Love Letters, Children of the Corn, This is Spinal Tap, and Police Academy. That's
not a bad lineup.
No.
I don't know Love Letters, but all the rest sounds.
I don't either. Jamie Lee Curtis is in it. But oh well. So Saturday night, what are you doing?
All right, we jumped in. Gotta go 8 p.m. I mean, there's no other choice. The Strokes. We're doing the Strokes, baby.
Yeah.
It's Arnold and Kathy, the woman with the disability, or the girl with the disability, where I definitely remember this episode where he hides money in his old sneaker, and then it gets thrown into the dumpster, and they have to go dumpster diving looking for the charity money that he had. By the way, there is an episode of television coming up from another 70s holdover later on the week that has almost the exact plot of this. So we'll
It's
come
a
up
classic. The money's in
but-
my sneaker.
Different Strokes, maybe my favorite show of my childhood.
Wow, that's bold.
It's bold. It was. I'm not saying it's a good show, Kenneth. I'm not saying it's a good show at all.
No, I understand.
But we watched it constantly, and then it was, at least in Philly, it was definitely syndicated. So it was on like every night at 5 and 5:30. So not only did we watch, I was very young when it aired until like 86 or something like that. So I was
It did a first run syndication season for the final season, and it switched networks.
It switched networks,
yeah.
But I remember it was one of the very first, being a child at night. Like the only two primetime shows I remember watching as like a 3-year-old were like The Muppet Show and Different Strokes. But we watched it in syndication. Those reruns just constantly.
Oh yeah. Before Growing Pains, that was like in Facts of Life. That was kind of which was a spinoff. Was the constant rerun. I normally don't mention T.J. Hooker.
Yes,
but it's relevant to what we discussed, and I just noticed the plot of T.J. Hooker on at the same time as Different Strokes is after a girl is kidnapped, a skeptical hooker. William Shatner, not a hooker, T.J. Hooker, they mean.
Oh, I was going to say, the skeptical hooker sounds like, that sounds like another Lana Wood poem.
It does.
The skeptical hooker
is assigned to work with a psychic who's been having a reoccurring dream of Hooker's death.
I mean, just another Pepper's Ghost episode, Ken.
Yeah. So then what are you doing?
So 8:30, there's not much on. I would watch this show. In hindsight, it was never my favorite, but Silver Spoons.
This is a heavy one.
Yes, but then I learned Silver Spoons. So basically, he has a friend who's like, "I'm clumsy, I fall down," just like the Suzanne Vega song, and it turns out he's being abused. But the actor, I looked him up, is apparently Punky Brewster's brother in real life.
Mino Pellucci.
Do you know that guy? I don't.
If you Google him, you will recognize him.
Okay.
Yeah, he popped up, and I believe he popped up in Punky Brewster before. He was a real kid who was like, "Hey, come on, I'm a street kid. Whoa!" He would play that kind
of course.
I mean, his name is Mino Pellucci.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Mino Pellucci. Can you state
Mino
that again?
Pellucci.
Mino Pellucci. At 9 o'clock, there's talking to mid-season replacements. The debut of a show called People Are Funny. Speaking of 70s holdovers, this is Flip Wilson as the host of this variation on 40s and 50s radio and TV shows featuring men on the street interviews and challenging ordinary people to perform unusual tasks while being recorded on camera. In the opener, Flip must identify 100 celebrities in the Los Angeles area. Also, this is the best. A man shops out of other people's carts. A nuclear scientist tries to detain a delivery man. What?
I mean, that sounds like what's happening in real life now.
Yeah.
But they're funny.
A nuclear scientist tries to detain a delivery man. What?
It doesn't make any sense at all.
No.
Is Flip Wilson still with us?
I don't believe so.
I don't think so, right?
He's a seminal black comic who never comes up as anyone's favorite anything or gets any credit for anything.
And he was huge. He was everywhere.
Massive.
And I think funny and just, he was like very over the plate and just very funny. And he was, by the way, he was also, I think, to a certain extent, non-threatening, if you want to say that. Like, my dad loved Flip Wilson. You know, it's like, hey, it's just fun.
Yeah, he was very, very middle America, like a sanitized black comedian, I think, for a lot of people.
But funny, delivered the goods.
There's an Airwolf ad on the next page, and it has one of the worst paste-ups I've ever seen. I don't know if you noticed it, but it's Ernest Borgnine's head, definitely not on his body.
I am not a tech person, and I could Photoshop that way better.
It's literally cut and pasted on, and it's clearly J. Michael Vincent's body. Like it's the signature jacket he wears.
Yep.
And I'm like, who do they think they're fooling here?
He's wearing the same jacket in the photo directly above it.
Yes. That's one of the worst I've ever seen.
Yes. Yeah.
So what are you doing at 9?
9, I'm going to skip Flip Wilson, although it was tempting. Got to go Love Boat because it has two of my favorite things of any television show if I want to watch it. It has Kevin McCarthy, not the old Speaker of the House, right. UHS Kevin McCarthy and Midnight Hours Kevin McCarthy.
Vision of the Body Snatchers.
Yes. It has Kevin McCarthy and Impotence.
Yeah.
I mean, what else do you need for 9 o'clock on a Saturday, Ken?
Yeah.
Now, Kevin McCarthy was not the impotent man.
No, and he never will, and he never will be.
Never will be in my book.
This Paul Kreppel is the impotent man. People would know him as the piano player from It's a Living, former stand-up comic. He hires a sex therapist played by Donna Pescow, who people would know as the mom from Out of This World.
Oh, wait. Did you say he was the piano player he was Sonny from It's a Living?
Sonny from It's a Living, yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yep.
Just more reason to watch.
Yeah, Dick Broke Don't Work. Sonny from It's a Living hires Donna Pescow to help an impotent friend. Oh, no, I'm sorry. He hires her to help his friend who's impotent. His impotent friend is played by Paul Sand. Gotcha.
Okay,
Sorry.
Paul Sand.
Paul Kreppel, okay. Dick Work, fine. Would you ever hire someone on your friend's behalf because their dick broke?
I have and I would, Ken.
Okay.
And that's all I'll say about that.
Yeah, I asked that for selfish reasons. That's the night. That's Saturday. But 10 o'clock.
Oh, but I do want to say something real quick. At 9:30, I may switch over, and this is blasphemy. I hate Mama's Family. But Murray Hamilton, the mayor from Jaws, makes an appearance. Yeah. I will watch Murray Hamilton in everything, even if it happens to be Mama's Family.
He plays Mama's long-lost brother-in-law. I'll allow it because this is the first season of Mama's Family when it was still on a network and had like a decent Carol Burnett adjacent cast. Yeah. So I'll overlook it.
Okay, I appreciate that.
There's a show on I'd never heard of before at 10 o'clock. And it stars Sybil Shepherd, and it's called The Yellow Rose. And it's an hour-long, I guess, like action comedy. And it was a failure because the season after this, she would move on to Moonlighting. And it's got a full-page ad, and Sybil Shepherd's looking hot. She's got a country look and a bandana on, and there's some cops fighting. But then it says, "Trapped in a slave labor camp?" It's another exclamation point. Chance and Colleen go undercover to expose a shocking secret. Now they're fighting for their lives. What?
Yeah, it makes no sense at all. I'm not surprised. I don't even know where that goes. Like as a series. Like I thought it was just a movie, but apparently not. And apparently they had other plot points to
There's an explosion in the back that's drawn with what looks like crayon. A. Martinez is in this episode. That's his name. It's not just, I'm not just saying there's A. Martinez.
It's just a certain Martinez.
One of them Martinez is in this. He was later on LA Law. And Barbara Stock is in this, who, again, the season after this in 85 would go on to play Spencer's girlfriend on Spencer for Hire.
Oh, okay.
She also was in the Seinfeld episode where George meets the woman on the train and she ties him up naked and leaves him there.
Right.
That's her. That's Barbara Stock.
Barbara Stock. Also, David Soul was he Starsky and Hutch?
Yes, he was.
And Sam Elliott's in it. So, I mean, got a Sam Elliott. Maybe it's worth something.
And Sam Elliott's mustache.
Yeah, I mean, that's all I'm looking for.
Yeah. So, Sunday, what are you doing?
Not a lot going on. I'm definitely going to go Knight Rider, I guess, because a computer hacker played by Brian Robbins, which I'm assuming is of Head of the Class fame.
Yes, Head of the Class and running Nickelodeon fame.
Yes, absolutely, and his good buddy DS.
Yes,
but so I would go with Knight Rider at 8 o'clock. But I might switch over before the action really gets going at 8:30 to a show called Domestic Life.
Yes, mid-season replacement,
which I've never heard of before, but Martin Mull, and apparently co-created by Steve Martin.
Yes. I've seen episodes of this. Yes, it was very funny. And it's a pretty, standard sitcom, and I say that in a complimentary way. And this one is, Martin feels threatened when novice on-air personality Candy achieves sudden popularity with her cooking segments on a TV talk show. So this was about a guy, Leslie Easterbrook is also in this episode, speaking of Police Academy. She played, what was that character's name with the big boobs?
The trainer, right?
Yeah. But he played a guy who has a TV. He's playing like a very similar character to himself and his like Fernwood Tonight character,
right?
In the show. It was a funny show. I think it's really like 6 episodes, to be honest with you. And the show before that was also a mid-season replacement, and also I remember enjoying. And it starred Suzanne Plachette as Maggie Briggs, and I love Suzanne Plachette. Like she's just
amazing.
Like funny and beautiful, and never really got a show worthy of her after Newhart.
Yeah, she's great in The Birds. She's in Hitchcock's The Birds, and is probably my favorite character.
She is standout in that. She makes everyone else look bad in that, to be honest with you.
She really does.
So I'd be curious to try that, but both good picks. And then 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock, The Jeffersons is on. I might just watch the last gasp of The Jeffersons. I'm very disappointed. I am a sucker to this day. I will watch made-for-TV movies on YouTube constantly. Yeah. I love them. But this one with Morgan Fairchild, Time Bomb.
She's the villain.
It just sounds terrible.
Oh, to me, it sounds
even though
amazing.
Billy D. Williams and Merlin Olsen is in it.
It's got a 2-page spread ad. It's got Morgan Fairchild all in black with a friggin' machine gun.
Yes.
And she's facing off against a beardless Merlin Olsen, which is rare. Joseph Bottoms and Billy D. Williams. Billy D. Williams looking like he's way too cool to be there. Doesn't give a shit. He's got a handgun, but he's all like, "What's going on?"
You can actually, if you look a little closer, you can actually see the paycheck in his pocket from this movie.
So I imagine this reeks of made-for-TV movie that was a failed pilot. That's what I get the sense here.
Yeah.
And this is Time Bomb, made for TV 1984. Militants led by, quote, the most wanted female terrorist in the world, played by Morgan Fairchild. And I'm sure they mean, most wanted in more than one way.
Yeah, they
Plot to hijack plutonium being transported across Texas. And this is the best adjective I've seen, and I've never seen this paired with what it's going to say. Being transported across Texas in a formidable truck.
It's the Cybertruck. That's what it is.
Formidable truck. And it's up against the ABC Sunday night movie, the TV network premiere of Alien, which the full-page ad utilizes some artwork, I imagine, made specifically for this.
Yeah,
because they made Sigourney Weaver look exactly like Madeline Kahn.
It looks like Madeline Kahn. It definitely looks like almost like airbrushed. It looks like if a carnival in 1984 had a ride that they turned into the Alien themed ride.
Yeah, like a dark ride, Alien experience ride. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's bad.
Yeah.
And then speaking of 70s holdovers, Alice is still on at 9:30, and again, one of the worst paste-up jobs in the ad. One of the characters in the hospital, and there's like an airbrush drawing of basically a mummy.
It's it's the craziest. It's the craziest mummy. Yeah, I would probably just fall back on Alice at 9:30. Either that or The Outsiders is on. Maybe I'd swing by The Outsiders.
Fair enough.
But not much going on.
No, it's Sunday. Monday night, what are you doing?
Starting off with TV bloopers and practical jokes. Danny DeVito gets pranked by Michael Douglas, which I guess is a Romancing the Stone kind of situation.
Yeah.
And the one that I want to see, this might be the highlight of my week. Conrad Bain pulls a prank on our boy Kevin McCarthy.
I don't remember this one, but I desperately want to see this.
How mad do you think Kevin McCarthy got? He was probably so mad. Furious.
It's either as furious as you'd want him to be, or the exact opposite, where you expect Kevin McCarthy, because he's always like a yelling kind of angry guy, just to not give a shit. Like he doesn't
react
at all. He's
just a sweetheart.
Yeah, he's like, what's going on?
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to look for that one. It's on against Automan, which was the sort of ripoff of Tron and Knight Rider that was on for a very short amount of time.
I think I got to go bloopers.
Yeah, I think that's fair. That's a good bang for your buck there. So then that's an hour, and then what are you doing at 9?
K&A, baby. Kate and Allie.
Yep.
Love Kate and Allie. I still watch it. I fell asleep watching it the other night on YouTube. I will say in my later years, I've fallen out of love with Susan St. James's character. She's a lot more in your face and annoying than I remembered, and just really, I definitely gravitate more towards Jane Curtin now. And I am making a case that I think if you rewatch that show where Kate is just, Susan St. James is Kate, right? Kate. Is just a figment of Allie's imagination. She's not really real.
She's their Tyler Durden kind of thing?
Exactly. Kind of like a Fight Club situation where like Allie has to take over and she's taking over all the kids, but somehow Kate's not real. I think that plot line works throughout.
Emma is Allie's actual daughter too?
Or maybe like Kate passed away and she took over, like she took custody of the daughter.
Okay.
But it's just that Kate isn't real. She never really has like a full-time job. She's always kind of floating around.
Sometimes she's a travel agent. Then they had the catering company. Yeah.
And then she was in the hospital for like a whole season. I think she was pregnant in real life, so they just put her in the hospital for a season. So I think this show could have just been called Allie.
Yeah, I'd watch it either way.
Absolutely.
And as a kid, had a crush on Emma. When I got older and got better taste, I had a crush on Jenny.
Yes, I've grown into that too. There's a great video going around right now of, I think it's Allison Smith. Is that the Jenny character?
Yes.
As a young girl,
former Annie,
and she's singing "Hard Knock Life," and she's like so angry on stage singing it.
Yeah.
If you get a chance, if you haven't seen it, it's great.
Yeah, I think she was the second Annie. This is the first season of Kate and Allie, which was a half season because this was a mid-season replacement. So this is the third episode, I believe, of the first season. Already breaking the format. They do this as a pseudo documentary. So the conceit of this episode is that Emma is doing a school project documentary about her household. So it's almost like that MASH episode, the Letters from Home one. And it's sort of done as like a documentary style episode, which is pretty innovative.
For 84, absolutely.
Totally watching that. And then I assume you're going Newhart at 9:30.
Gotta go Newhart. Gotta go to the Heart. Yeah.
Yeah. This is Stephanie centric. We love Julia Duffy. This is a sticky twist on the Cinderella story develops after Stephanie agrees to mind the inn while everyone else goes to the maple syrup queen contest. This is, she's just so funny.
She's great. It's such a great show.
Tuesday, what are you doing?
So the first thing I saw on Tuesday was an ad for a show or a movie that I remember very specifically from my childhood, which is Welcome Home, Jellybean.
This is an after-school special. Not even after-school special. This is CBS Schoolbreak, which was their version of after-school specials. This one's rough.
Yes. It was back in the day where the late, great Dana Hill from European Vacation et al. Just really goes very hardcore with her portrayal of a mentally challenged person.
Yeah, this is Christopher Collier, who is in Not My Science Project, the Manhattan Project.
Okay.
Manhattan Project or the Philadelphia Experiment. I always get those. The one where he's a super smart kid and he steals this plutonium and makes a bomb with John Lithgow.
Right.
So he's the brother. His name's Neil. Yeah, and it says Neil's world is turned upside down when his, and I won't say this word, our sister comes home. A bittersweet story of courage and love. This is difficult to watch. This was in the wake of Mickey Rooney starring in the Bill films.
Where he played the harmonica?
Yeah, he was a sweetly mentally challenged man. There were 2 made-for-TV movies co-starring Helen Hunt.
I remembered that. You said films.
Yeah, they were made-for-TV movies. There were 2, yeah.
2 of them.
Yep.
So they made it, and then they decided, we should do this again.
Yeah, because they were like, oh, can we do this as a series? And they didn't, but there's 2. Yeah, there's Bill, and then like... The second one's literally called like Bill Rides Again or something like that.
I did not know that.
Yeah. And this poor actor, the whole thing. There's also like a gang of street toughs in the ad And so the brother's got this like sitcom-y look like, oh, Nell. But
Yes.
she's, loving life. Looks like she's throwing a ball. And there's literally like the sweat hogs back there. I don't know what they fit in here.
I remember at like because she went to the school or whatever, and like they would just, of course, just like yell at her and like chant Jellybean, Jellybean over, and make fun of her because that's the way kids are.
So it's 60 minutes. Here's the whole description. A mentally teenager's impact on her family is dramatized with compassion and understanding. Its title, Welcome Home Jellybean, refers to the homecoming of Geraldine Oxley, played by Dana Hill, who has spent most of her 15 years in an institution and is unable to pronounce her name clearly. It comes out Jellybean. Now her mother wants her home. Some homecoming. Geraldine creates panic in the apartment house elevator, hurls most of the first air at the walls, and later throws groceries down the garbage chute. That and more soon drives Dad out of the house. Mom tries to persevere, but that's small consolation to Geraldine's younger brother Neil because his sister, he's suffering humiliation at school. This actually, not to get serious socially, but there was two things that happened around 84. One, Reagan had shut down all the institutions, ultimately for better.
Yes.
He shut them down for a bad reason, but they were horrific. There were sort of no good mental institutions. But as a result, we had a lot of young people who would have been institutionalized for their whole lives went back with their families. And we had that really was a major factor in the homeless crisis because all these people were sort of thrown out in the streets. Two, there was an educational law. I think it was part of the ADA. I'm not 100% sure. I think it might have been state by state, but it was about immersive learning where developmentally disabled kids, it was sort of legally required for them to have some amount of classes with the general population of the school. They couldn't be isolated in the school.
Yeah, I was a fourth grade teacher for a bunch of years, and it was, it's mainstreaming, and that it was the least restrictive environment was the
which
mantra.
All sounds like a good thing. Weirdly, some of the research says that it wasn't. Like it's just this kind of was a very timely topic. You also passed up follow-ups, bleeps and blunders, the ripoff of bloopers and prattle jokes.
Yeah, I decided to go against that. I went at 8. I went A-Team, but I feel like Tuesday night was a real valley. There wasn't much going on. Of course, I loved the A-Team when I was a kid, but I didn't understand it half the time. It's just like there's a van and Mr. T and Murdoch.
There is a world premiere movie starring Art Carney though at 9:00. Stars Art Carney and James Cagney. Ooh. This is a movie called Terrible Joe Moran. A real-life legend portrays a fictional one. In his first TV movie, and his last, because he looks about 1 million years old, James Cagney plays Joe Moran, an 80-year-old old-time welterweight champion who has hung on to his independence despite physical infirmary and a circumscribed social life, almost said the other thing, that includes screening films of old fights, which are clips taken from Cagney's 1932 movie Winner Takes All, with the housekeeper Troy. So Art Carney plays his housekeeper. This sounds weird and depressing.
Yeah, and he looks like, and because there's the drawing and then there's the photograph on the next page. It's the person who drew the old man from the movie up.
Even the photo.
This, right?
To be honest with you,
it's
the head shape,
the glasses. It is the old man from up. Yeah, the photo looks even more like it. Yeah.
That very weird that he was in this one, but that sounds interesting.
I might have watched that. I think I missed that. I just went Three's Company again. Sort of shocked that it was still on, but has the same plot as Different Strokes from before. Mr. Furley threw out a couch that Jack stuck $1,000. He hit $1,000 in, and then they had to go find. So it's almost the same thing as Different Strokes.
Not only that, but the $1,000 he had was another kind of urban legend of the time where an ATM machine, which were new, accidentally gave him $1,000. So he hid it in the couch because he thought he was going to get caught. Because you could kind of get away with that then before they were able to track those sort of things.
There was no cameras. I remember my dad used to deliver bread to like grocery stores and that type of thing. And he had like a 7-Eleven that he delivered to. And every once in a while when I was a kid, I would go and I found a $20 bill in an ATM once, and it was just so for years I just thought you could just do that, and I would check every ATM, and it was just somebody just left one behind.
Sure,
by
it
accident.
was like putting your finger in the corner turn and things. You're like, maybe I'll get this. This is the last season of Three's Company, the show morphed into Three's a Crowd in the next season, which was a huge bomb.
Yes.
Not a great show either. There's another amazing mid-season replacement that is a terrible show. I recently discovered it and watched it at 9:30.
I think I know what you're going to say because I think it's what I picked. Go ahead. I want to see.
Shaping Up.
Yes. Yes.
This is about a health club, and it stars Jennifer Tilly, who's always great in everything, and Leslie Nielsen. And Leslie Nielsen's basically playing Jack LaLanne. So this is like a rip from the headlines, because Jack LaLanne had a series of gyms in the 80s. Like, he kind of capitalized on the fitness craze. And so it's like old man from the 50s with these new aerobic, and it's not good.
No, and I vaguely remember this. I've definitely watched this show when I was a kid. I did look up yesterday the theme to it, like the opening credits. It's the most confusing thing. It's literally basically just the Olivia Newton-John physical video. It's just big dudes pumping up with close-ups. And then about a minute and a half in, you see Leslie Nielsen and Jennifer Tilly real quick. It doesn't explain what's happening at all.
But they go out of their way to have Jennifer Tilly doing that exercise machine where your boobs stick out as far as possible.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wednesday, what'd you do?
Another tough one. I went One Day at a Time, which again, shocked it's still on.
Yeah.
The reason I went that is because Howard Hessman was on it. So it's like, you got to love the Hess.
Sure.
I did see that there was a Real People, and it is my best favorite combo of Real People. The two stories were about POWs and the Chippendales.
Yep. POWs and MIAs, we meet with the Vietnamese UN ambassador and then male strippers from Chippendales.
Yeah.
Who put Sarah Purcell through their aerobics routine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh my God. And then the final one, Pig Obedience School.
I didn't even see that.
Not even making a cop joke.
The trifecta.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's a good call. Good call.
Yeah. And then at 9 o'clock, I'm doing Facts of Life.
Yep, before it moved to Saturdays.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And although there was a made-for-TV movie called I Was a Mail-Order Bride, starring Valerie Bertinelli. So as much as I love Facts of Life, I might have to watch Valerie Bertinelli in
this is a 1982 movie. They're rerunning it. Yeah, she was in a lot of those. And at 9:30, another mid-season replacement from this year. It was soon replaced in this time slot on Wednesdays by Double Trouble. It's Night Court.
Yes. And it even did mention that. It said, because I picked Night Court, and then it even said, like, next week, the premiere of Double Trouble in this time slot, which I love Double Trouble.
Oh, yeah.
It was such a weird, I've never saw that before in TV Guide, where it's like, it gives the description. It's like, by the way, this show might be crap, but stick around for Twins next week.
Yeah, I know. Just trust me. Be here at this time. Yeah. It was, I believe, and Night Court was, again, one of those Tartikoff shows. It did surprisingly well. Mm-hmm. So they moved it to Thursdays, like pretty soon after the premiere. I think it premiered in January 83, if I'm remembering. So they were like, hey, this is a hot time slot on Wednesday night. When we stick Double Trouble in there?
Yeah, why not? Let's go for it. And were they syndicated? Did they syndicate?
No, well, later they did. USA Network picked them up. So they were only a season and a half. So the first season of Double Trouble was basically a completely different show.
Yeah, and then they moved to New York?
They moved to New York, which is the much better season with the Funny Boys. And that's a much, much better season. There's just a better cast, and it's just funnier. Emery Johnson is in it, who I've had on the show.
Oh, wow. Okay.
We talk about that there. Yeah, so that is where that went. Thursday, what'd you do?
The world is introduced to Joey Lawrence on Give Me a Break
Yes.
at 8 o'clock. So I would watch that. Although there was a show, I wanted to ask you about this. C. Thomas Howell and Melora Hardin were in a show called Two Marriages.
Yeah.
It looks like almost like a family or 8 is enough sort of. Do you know anything about this?
Yeah, this was almost like almost a proto 30 something. But it was about like young married people. So C. Thomas Howell, I mean, he's like 20 something when this was, I believe, a mid-season show. I want to say this was like 2, maybe 3 episodes. It's an hour-long drama. So yeah, and this one, Scott, played by C. Thomas Howell, sees for himself the hazards of the commitment Kate wants from him. Meanwhile, Art and Nancy are worried about an IRS audit and Shelby's increasingly eccentric behavior. So yeah, it's straight up dramedy. But more on the drama side. I also don't recognize a single actor in this aside from C. Thomas Howell.
No. Yeah, Melora Hardin was in it. She plays Jan in The Office. But other than that, nobody.
Yeah, and I assume that this went so badly, C. Thomas Howell was like, I guess I'll do Soul Man.
Yeah, the next obvious step.
Yeah, you go. And he did, this was the same year he did The Hitcher.
Oh, that's right. Do you think, did Soul Man ruin his career? Like, was that bad back then?
No, it did pretty well. And people like groaned a little bit at it, but nobody was like, oh my God. I feel like something was going on with him.
Okay.
Because the next place I remember him popping up was in the early 90s. He was in a sort of vampire soap opera called Kindred the Embraced.
Oh, wow.
Which was sort of a kind of an interesting idea. I believe it was Fox, but it was about these sort of like ancient vampire families. They were like, it was basically like Dallas, right? Because they were these wealthy families and they had like rivalries. And he was a cop that got like caught up in it all. And it was not a ton of episodes. But I remember him popping up in that. And this was probably 93 or 94, and he looked real haggard.
Yeah. So there was, the 80s didn't do him well.
No, I don't know what his deal was, so I don't want to disparage him, but I think there were some issues going on there.
And then at 8:30, Family Ties, of course.
Yeah. This is when it's still on Thursdays. This was, people get those sort of must-see TV, was built these years with this year, really, with this lineup, Family Ties at 8:30.
And then they're going Cheers, of course.
Yep.
And then at 9:30, I'm going Buffalo Bill with Dabney Coleman, who we just lost. And in this episode, Max Wright, Willie from Alf, is apparently in this one. So can't go wrong with that.
Joanna Cassidy, been on the show. Gina Davis was in this show, as was Meshack Taylor, who would later be on Designing Women. This is a great show. Really great show. Mm-hmm. Shot on film, very smart, very funny show. People hated it because it was way ahead of its time. Dabney Coleman's playing the most Dabney Coleman character you can imagine, who's just an asshole. He's like it way predates that unlikable main character, but just a killer cast in this. It won a Golden Globe, I believe. I think Joanna Cassidy won a Golden Globe for this.
Really?
It came out on DVD a few years ago. I don't think it's streaming, but it's absolutely worth watching. It is a good show. He plays a news anchor, I think. It takes place mostly in like a TV news focus. But really great show, like well worth watching. And I think it's only like 13 episodes.
He's amazing in everything he does, even if the show's not great or a movie. He's great. I just watched Bad Ronald recently, and he's great in Bad Ronald.
Yeah.
He just plays himself, and he's amazing. And I have to say, my father-in-law is a little bit older now, but looks exactly like he is Dabney Coleman.
He's got a father-in-law look. Like, that's his thing. I always like watching him because he does kind of always play a Dabney Coleman character, which is nothing wrong with that.
No.
But I think even he got a little bit bored of that. So I like seeing the weird acting choices he makes in sort of his later roles, like in Dragnet, where he decides to have that weird lisp. It's not like a gay lisp. He's doing like a strange speech impediment.
Southern kind of, yes.
So just for his own amusement, and it really is great.
Yeah, and I think he suffered from the fact that he always sort of played an asshole, 9 to 5, all that, where he's just so good at being unlikable, which is great.
But in a likable way, which sounds like a stupid statement, but you're just like, you love him, and he seems like a guy you'd want to hang out with, but he's an asshole.
You're exactly right.
Kind of like Eddie Albert. Like, he's annoyed all the time.
Yes. Yeah.
And that is your Thursday.
That's my Thursday, yeah. And then Friday is the reason that I picked this issue.
This is what we teased.
Webster's on at 8:30. Loved Webster, but I'm here for the CBS presentation of The Wizard of Oz.
Mm-hmm.
which this was TV to me as a child because we watched this. I was in like first grade. I remember my mom and my brother and I sat down to watch The Wizard of Oz. We had a brand new VCR. It was our first VCR, and we recorded The Wizard of Oz, commercials and all. And then for years we watched that Wizard of Oz with all the commercials. And The Wizard of Oz is great. Obviously, legendary movie, loved it as a kid. But the commercials, I went to YouTube and I don't understand why or how, but there's literally all of the commercial breaks for that 1984 CBS edition of the Wizard of Oz, and it's the exact commercials that I watched over and over again, and they're all it's my favorite commercial compilation ever.
This was a big deal. There were a couple movies they'd show every year. And for a while, Wizard of Oz was sort of a Christmas movie. They would show it around Christmas every year. It slowly moved further and further away. So this was March. It was always a big deal. It was like the only time you could watch it. It really wasn't even that available on like to rent on home video. No. And they'd also always make it a big deal. Like they'd have like a new host segments, or it would be some new thing that they would sort of fit into this. And it's hilarious to me because this is 1984. We're watching a movie from 1939. That's insane. But that movie holds up. Did you go see it when it was IMAX a few years ago?
I didn't. It would have been great.
IMAX 3D Wizard of Oz. Unbelievable.
So walk me through that, because that's got to be, because it's obviously an old movie.
Yes, and it was shot. So normally when you go to an IMAX movie, kind of the technical thing is that it's the millimeter of film. So IMAX I think is 140 millimeters or something. It's like 270 millimeter film. So it's like the widest widescreen, but it's also taller. Wizard of Oz was shot in an Academy ratio, which is like a TV ratio. It's not a widescreen movie.
Okay.
So I've never seen an IMAX movie. It literally went from the floor to the ceiling, just like you kind of had to look up and down to see the whole picture, wow. Which was kind of amazing because, and it was just like pristine, crystal clear, sharp, and in 3D. And it was kind of great that it was a movie you've seen a million times because you could kind of look around as scenes were going on. And it was so ridiculously immersive. Plus just hearing the sound design and that, it was shockingly, a movie from 1939 was probably the best IMAX experience I've ever had. And it was just great. It was great.
Yeah. Oh, that has to be me. I would love to check that out.
Any day of the week, I would go see that again there. There's a weird documentary on NBC that night.
Really?
It's called Baby Boom. The Pig in the Python.
Oh, God.
You're like, what is that? This 1984 documentary traces the societal impact of the baby boom generation, 1946 to 64, and the, quote, center of gravity in America, representing 1/3 of the total U.S. population. So it's a documentary about boomers, but The Pig in the Python? That sounds like a game that the Bicycle Man played on Different Strokes. Like, what?
Oh my God, that's great. Yeah, that is so strange.
So weird. There's also a rerun of The Master on, which was a short-lived show with Sho Kosugi, who was the guy who kind of brought ninjas to America.
Okay.
And it starred Tim Van Patten and Lee Van Cleef. This episode has Clu Gulager and Demi Moore in it. If you're a Mystery Science Theater 3000 fan, this was one of it was later edited into a movie that they called Master Ninja, but this is one of the episodes. And this is the thing that I am very interested in finding a copy of. On PBS, there is a thing called The Toughest School in America. And it says a look at, first of all, it says an look, which is incorrect, which is kind of funny to think about school. And look at success stories from Meeting Street School in East Providence, Rhode Island, a school that has developed nationally acclaimed programs and testing methods for severely physically and mentally impaired children. So it sounds like it's going to be about gangs and stuff, but it's just like, it's resilient.
Yes.
That sounds kind of amazing. Plus, I will watch any documentary from the 80s from anywhere in New England.
Of course. 100%. That looks amazing. Like today I would watch that maybe. As a kid I would watch The Wizard of Oz, but this seems, maybe it's sort of like a Wizard of Oz situation, Oh, yeah. There's no place like school. Yeah, this is, wow.
Then super weird at 10 o'clock on CBS after The Wizard of Oz.
Yes.
It's March.
I know exactly what you're going to say.
They're airing what was clearly a Christmas special that for whatever reason didn't air in time, that they've rebranded Anne Murray's Winter Carnival from Quebec. Anne Murray in concert performing her greatest hits, heating up the snow-capped French-Canadian scene. We all know about the snow-capped French-Canadian scene.
Obviously, Ken.
Share the sights, music, and fun of, and I've never heard Quebec called this, Mardi Gras North.
I remember being a kid. This was one of the commercials that aired constantly during that edition of The Wizard of Oz. And one of the scenes was just, of course, it was like Anne Murray singing, but then it was like her with her kid on her lap going down this like super slide, like carnival slide, like into some like fake snow. And I just remember being even like a 6-year-old thinking, why do I want to watch this woman have fun when I can't? Why do I want to watch other people at a carnival? This sounds, and I used to get so angry at that commercial that would pop up.
This is weird. In a recording studio, Anne and Dionne Warwick team for a melody that includes She Works Hard for the Money, the Pointer Sisters song. And this is the weirdest one. Glenn Campbell on a skating rink singing a parody song, Mama, Don't Let Your Babies Grow Up to Play Hockey.
They're really leaning into Canada up there, baby.
Yeah, because that cash cow of Canada, they're like, there's untapped billions that we can go up here. There's no...
I have to say that one other commercial that was during that thing, so we recorded it, I was like a star of my neighborhood in my first grade class because there was a Pepsi commercial, and it was the Pepsi commercial with the Jackson 5 where Michael Jackson had his hair catch on fire.
Yeah.
And so I then had that commercial taped. So literally kids would come over to my house and we would watch just that Michael Jackson commercial over and over again.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I remember that one.
That was
with a Pepsi generation. Yeah. This, it's a great time for commercials.
Yeah. Where's the Beef was on there too.
Of course, Claire Peller's finest work.
There was also a coffee commercial that starred Jane Curtin, Kurt Vonnegut, and the band Heart.
Yes, I recall that. Commercial. I think I reposted that recently.
It's so wild.
It's very strange. This also has a thing called TV Bookshelf, and they're reviewing 2 books. One's called The Official Couch Potato Handbook, and the other one is called Not Quite TV Guide, which is a sort of parody of TV Guide, which I own both. These are really funny, and this is like a pretty fair, funny, good review of both those books. Like in the Not Quite TV Guide, it says the author captures perfectly the curious mixture of disdain, cogent analysis, and boosterism that holds the TV Guide package together. Readers should appreciate such send-ups as, quote, they tell dirty stories about pro football players, which is interviews with dry cleaners of star athletes, and Bad Guys Finish First, chronicling the rise of the international terrorist on primetime stardom. So it's actually really funny. Lovers of small print will also enjoy browsing through the listings for shows like Subway Police. A madman is pouring milk into the generators at power stations. And Where Am I? Amnesiacs try to find themselves. What's that you say? Those listings sound perfectly cogent to you? Then curl up your tail, grab some cheese from the fridge, and go back to the addiction now in progress. We'll be in next week to vacuum under the couch. There's also an ad in here for a very strangely named cigarette. Page 101.
Viceroy?
Viceroy's a weird-ass name for a cigarette, right?
I remember that. I feel like, and I could be wrong about this, but we have family friends up in Maine, and the gentleman who unfortunately passed away, I think he used to smoke Viceroys.
What is a Viceroy? Why do I know what that...
It's like a fancy... Is it sort of like a... I could be really wrong about this, but about like a Duke or an Earl or something like that?
But it sounds German. Like, for some reason, I associate it with, like it sounds Nazi-ish to me. It just has that connotation.
It really does.
Like, oh no, it's the Viceroy.
The Viceroy is here.
And it says, pleasure's where you find it.
Again, there's your word pleasure, Ken.
Which is hilarious because the ad is this dude with like a GT Thunderbird, and he's got a super Irish sweater on, he's got a cigarette, and he's got a dog, and he's sitting next to an old prospector smoking a pipe in front of a tent, and it looks like they're lovers. Pleasure's where you find it?
Yeah. And like they're time traveling because he's a prospector. He's got a donkey in the background.
Yeah.
There is so much going on here.
Discover Viceroy satisfaction. Man, this is a great issue. There's also a big article in here about Jimmy Cagney, and a review. Robert McKenzie reviews Mickey Spillane's Mike Hammer, which I think is a pretty awesome show. Stacey Keach plays Mike Hammer. Even with a mustache, it works. I'm not normally I don't picture Mike Hammer with a mustache, but it was a fun show. I like he says, Mickey Spillane isn't my favorite private eye author. Try Robert Parker for a good current contender, which is funny because that's Spencer, which became a TV show the following season.
Oh, that's right.
Which is, again, great TV show. No cheers and jeers this week, so that is the whole issue. Although, oh man, I just found this. The Dry Look. It's an ad for a product called The Dry Look. Today's hairstyles are neater, shorter, and more natural. That's the Dry Look. And the Dry Look has a special 12-hour holding formula so you can keep that well-groomed look all day, even if you have fine or thinning hair. The Dry Look hairspray. It keeps today's look looking good all day. The Dry Look, 12-hour holding power.
Amazing.
Oh, man.
Available in pump or aerosol.
Yeah, the best things are.
Yes, they are.
Pleasure where you find it. Available in pump. So many double entendres. Well, thank you so much for doing this again. Maybe the third time we'll see each other in person.
Or I prefer Pepper's Ghost, but whatever.
We can do it Pepper's Ghost style. We'll do a live show Pepper's Ghost, which would mean we were under the stage and people would think that we were holograms.
Just the entire time.
Yeah.
We're actually on the premises, but just backstage.
You don't know it. People could throw things, go right through us.
Exactly.
Perfect. Well, I hope everyone learned something today because, I don't know, I think I did.
Yeah, I hope so. I learned a lot, Ken.
There you go. That's Chip, Pepper's Ghost. If you didn't know about it, now you do. Although for some reason, I'm like, all my listeners have to already know what Pepper's Ghost is. Like, I'd be surprised if they didn't. And I mean that as a compliment, not an insult to you people. Check out his special Move Closer. Again, links and all the stuff. If you can't find the links, just shoot me an email and let me know and I'll send it to you. And yeah, enjoy it. And enjoy it the next week, because I'll be here next week waiting for you with a brand new edition of TV Guidance Counselor.
It has Kevin McCarthy and impotence. What else do you need for 9 o'clock on a Saturday, Ken?